Hello, and welcome to the FIRES Scouting System for FRC Robotics, brought to you by Innovators Robotics Team 3138. FIRES stands for FIRST Innovators Robotics Electronic Strategic Scouting System. The Innovators Robotics used several criteria this year to determine what we wanted to scout and the kind of information we would need to help us with the game, not only for pick lists but also for strategy during the course of each of the regionals. So we wanted to track discrete events. So every time a robot would pass a ball or throw the ball over a truss or shoot or something like that, we wanted to track those discrete events. We wanted to track if there were scoring components associated because possessions dictated how the scoring event would happen. Truss throws, catches, all had scoring components to them. So we needed to be able to track that aspect of the game. We also wanted to understand things like traffic flow, locations for where people shoot the truss, where people shoot in the goal. So we wanted to track the locations of those discrete events as well. We felt that this year it was very important to track the time that it took to do things. So how long did an assist take? How long did a truss throw take? How long did it take a robot to pick a ball up if they were going to pick the ball up and carry it? So we wanted to track a timing aspect of each of these discrete events as well. We also wanted this to be, just as in prior years, a real-time type of system. So as scouters were collecting data, the drive team could see the data almost real-time based on when the data was put into the system. Many scouting systems scout with paper that they can put the data on a piece of paper and then someone keys it in and then spreadsheets printed out and handed to the drive team. That's too many steps, and we wanted a much more real-time system. So we have gone truly to a full electronic system. Just a real high look at the architecture. So in the lower left-hand corner, our scouters can use tablets or computers. Technically, they could use phones, but the real estate on the screen is just a little too small. It makes it a little bit of a challenge just because of the screen size. So we found that tablets are a really good crossover between a phone and a computer. The tablets last longer battery-wide. Because of the rule about Wi-Fi, all of our tablets have 4G capability. So as we're collecting the data, the scouters are writing the data real time across the 4G signal onto a server that resides on the internet. Now the interesting thing is our drive team also has a 4G tablet. That could be a computer or a phone or whatever, as long as they can get to the internet. So they can read the data off that server nearly real time as the scouters are writing the data. So when matches are complete, you'll see the drive team will look and refresh their data to see what that looks like. So this particular training is going to be focused purely on the scouting aspect of this whole FIRE system. There's another video that will be available for the drive team as well. So the URL for the scouting is innovators3138.org/FIRES. When you go to that URL, the first thing you'll be presented with is a login screen, and that login screen does have the availability for a guest access. So for practice or for training or if you're demoing, you can just use that guest access button on the lower right-hand corner, and that'll log you into a test event so it won't walk all over the real data that our scouters are trying to collect. During the course of a regional, you will have a real username and password, and then you would select a regional to be writing the data against. When we select the guest access, what will happen is it'll allow us to pick a regional for that particular user, and the users are tied to teams, so only the teams regionals will be available when you log in. When you log in as the guest access, only the test event will be available. So once you pick the test event, it will display all the matches across the top. That's what the numbered boxes are, and that scrolls over all the way to the end with the scroll bar. It also wants you to know. It wants to know what your name or some kind of initials for you as a scouter. The only reason we do this is just so we know if there's a problem, we know to talk to that scouter. Or if the scouter had a problem and they said, oh, we had a problem with that match, we can find those transactions very easily because the scouter's name is attached to them in some way. So once you've picked a match and you've put in your name, what you'll be presented with is the some other prompts. When you select that match, it knows which teams belong to that match. They're all preloaded ahead of time, and you would select one of those teams that you're watching. The Fire scouting system is a team-based scouting now. For those of you that have used this earlier this year, we have changed that approach. Now each scouter watches one team throughout the entire match. Probably a good way to organize this is usually what we do is we sit the scouters together, and I as a scouter am always going to watch blue 2. So the second team in blue, no matter what it is, I'll always pick that second team. In this case, that would be 1764. Once I've selected the team that I'm going to be watching for this match, the scouting system needs to understand how many balls are going to be out during autonomous, because there is that tricky part of leftover balls that happen that didn't get scored during autonomous, and we need to score them properly because they're not subject to the assist scoring. So we just need to know how many balls each one of those teams starts with. There is a little bit of a tricky thing you just need to watch out for. Some robots can do 2-ball autonomous, and if the ball is touching 2 teams, we don't want to overcount the balls. So just coordinate the efforts to either the one team will put in 2 balls and the other team will put in 0, or each team will just put in 1. It really doesn't matter. As long as we get the total number of balls correct that are being started with, it really doesn't matter. Come up with a system and stick with it just so you're consistent. Probably will keep problems from happening. In this case, I've selected 1 ball. When you select ready for match, what that does, it basically pauses and it's all ready to start autonomous, and it's waiting for the game to actually start. So once you select all the items here, select the ready for match, and that will bring up one more prompt to get you started. Once you start in autonomous mode, you'll be presented with a screen that looks like this. So the autonomous scoring or the autonomous activities for a particular robot really only consist of a couple of things. Either they drove, for instance, if I drove from the white zone to the red zone as a red team, that's subject to some scoring because it's that possession across the zones. So we have actually a drive event button on the right-hand side. So how this works is when you start the autonomous mode and the robot moves from the white zone to the red zone, you will pick the spot that it moved to. In this case, you'll see the yellow square. So you would just, with a tablet or with a mouse, you would click on that position, and it's going to put that little yellow dot there. That's the dot that we're going to record as the location that it drove to. So in this case, I would click the location, then I'd click the drive button. So I log the location and then the event that happened at that location. If then they shot in the goal from that location, I can keep the location in that spot, and then I pick either the high or the low goal. Now, during autonomous, we do have some choices there because we have the hot scoring and the not hot scoring. So you'll see that there is a high goal, there's a high hot goal, a low goal, and a low hot goal. There also is another event that the robot did absolutely nothing. It sat there and didn't even move. So we do want to capture that. Just it's another data point that is helpful to us. The other thing that you'll see in the lower left-hand corner is you'll see that there's sort of a log of events that have happened as you log them. In this case, that 1736 robot, we started the autonomous. The position was the move position from the white zone to the red zone, and the last one there at the top was the shot high, and it was successful. So when you select the hot high or the low hot, what you'll see is a little up thumb or a down thumb, a green and red thumb, whether or not it was successful. We wanted to know if they missed or they actually succeeded in shooting those goals, because once again there's a scoring component and where the ball went after that. We need to keep track of where those balls are going. On the left-hand side, there's a series of sort of miscellaneous events. The foul, the technical foul, miscellaneous parts fell off the robot, or it truly broke down. And the broke down could be it tipped over, something stopped working on the robot. So we just kind of looking for breakages and fouls over there. Now we have found that a really common foul that is highly correctable is the G40 foul. And if you're familiar with the rules, that G40 foul is a human player reaching into the active play area. That's a technical foul. It will get scored as such, but we wanted to make sure that we log specifically that foul, because if we have teams that are consistently doing that foul, that is definitely a correctable problem. It's a little easier to correct than something like I reached inside the frame perimeter or something like that. So this is the autonomous screen. Also across the bottom, if you're in autonomous, if your robot is playing defense in the goalie zone and maybe you're defending the ball, you can actually do defense for your robot, and how it works is my team is 1736 on the red side, but I'm defending against those three blue teams, the 1756, 1764, and 1806. So if I defended one of those teams, you just select one of those buttons, and that logs the event. Just like with all the other events, you move the location spot to where the event happened, and then you select the event. So basically it's a two-input type of scouting, where I did it and what happened at that spot. So after a certain amount of time, the teleop will automatically switch. If, in fact, you're done with autonomous, there's the green button at the top is the start teleop. You can switch immediately to teleop. We have sort of a semi-automated switch if you get behind or if you missed something. So if you haven't switched it, it will automatically switch over to the autonomous mode after a certain amount of time. The autonomous mode looks very similar. You still have the foul, the technical foul, the G40, and the breakdowns on the left-hand side, and you still have the defense across the bottom, and you still have the location map with the yellow spot. What has changed is the events on the right-hand side, because events are a little different when you're in the teleop mode. So just like with the autonomous, we have the high and the low, and the choice there is they succeeded or not succeeded if you pick one of those buttons. What we're trying to do is we're trying to follow the flow of the game. So things that happen to your robot, so if your robot passed the ball to another robot, then there's a pass event. Once again, where was I when I passed the event, when I passed the ball? Same thing with the drop. If I'm driving along and the ball fell out, I didn't really pass it, it just fell out, or maybe I got bumped and it dropped, that's what the drop event is. The touch event is really tied to the possess event, the possess event being an event where I'm holding the ball, I'm controlling the ball. The reason why this is important, because that's really tied to the assist scoring. I have to possess the ball in order for an assist to work properly. Now, the interesting thing about the possess is if I pick up the ball in the blue zone and I drive to the white zone, I need to put the possess event, even if I just drove there, because I have to log that I have possessed the ball both in the blue zone and in the white zone. And then subsequently, if I've driven to the red zone, I would have a possess event in the red zone as well. So possessing is I'm controlling the ball in that zone. Now, what would happen is if the ball is passed to a robot and they're trying to pick it up, And here's a robot that may take a while to pick the ball up. So they're chasing the ball around, and maybe it takes 4 or 5 seconds or maybe even longer to pick the ball up. That's really what the touch event is for. At the point that the ball first touches the robot, you select the touch event. If at the point that they now are controlling the ball, maybe they have a roller and they've picked it up, or they've grabbed it and picked it up, so that at that point you then select the possess event. Now, for those teams that pick up very quickly, you don't really need to do the touch event. The system will automatically generate the touch event if it doesn't exist. What the touch event is for is we're looking for those robots that are more than an immediate pickup. It takes them a little while to pick it up. So once again, you select the touch event at the first point that the ball touches the robot, and then the possess event when it finally controls the ball. Don't be concerned if you touch the ball and then you touch it again and then some other robot picks it up. That's okay. It doesn't really matter. What we're really looking for is that touch and then possess event combination. So on the bottom there, we have a truss and a truss catch. So when you throw the ball over the truss, once again, if the ball is thrown over the truss, you'll have a choice of it succeeded or it did not succeed. That truss event, it will be then tied to the catch event. So at the point that the ball goes over the truss and another robot catches it, or if you're the robot that catches it, you would log that I caught the ball as the robot that I am following. One other thing that is really important here is the possess human. We want to track if there is human activity that happens, and the person responsible for that possess human is the event that happened, like I passed the ball to a human. So if I pass the ball to a human, I would select the location and then the pass, and then I would say the possess human. At that point, the human's going to throw it to somebody else, and then that other team would pick that up and go on forth. But it will be your responsibility if you have given the ball to the human to select the possess human. Same holds true for if I throw it over the truss to a human player. I'm going to do the truss successful, and then I'm going to say possess human. Once again, I want to log the event that I have caused the human player to possess the ball. Just like with autonomous, if I am defending another robot, I pick the location which I'm defending that robot, and then I just select the robot. If there is a continuous defense, you can select the ball, you can select that defense button multiple times, and really that does help a little bit. It makes the system a little bit more accurate because we're actually taking those defensive events and logging them against the other team's offensive events. Because if they're shooting and I'm giving them defense, I want to see if the defense makes a difference for the shooting. So if they're continuing to push another robot, or if they're getting into a pushing match, or they're nudging them around, or they're blocking the ball, you can select the defensive event. Don't get crazy with it. Do it every second or so. Just select the button every second or two, just so you can continually log that I keep defending the same robot, because it might start, and then it might stop, and then it might start again. We're just looking for the defense that's happening that your robot is causing. I'd like to take just a quick look at the application itself. So if we switch just to the application, just to kind of walk it through. So I want to start with the guest access. I'm just going to log in as guest access. And when I log in as guest access, the first thing it wants to know is, what am I going to do? Am I scouting, or am I going to the dashboard? The dashboard is what the drive team looks at. So when I select scouting, here's the test event that's available. So I select that test event that you'll see other events when you're logged in as a real scouter. I'll pick the match number. There's my match 11. It then prompts me for which robot am I watching. I'm going to be watching 1736. It then is going to prompt me for how many balls am I going to be preloaded in autonomous. I'm going to say that this particular robot has 1 ball preloaded. And then I'm ready for the match. You will select this immediately, because when you select that ready for match, now the system is waiting for autonomous period to start. And you as a scouter are just going to wait with the screen waiting. As soon as they start the match, you're going to select start the autonomous mode. And here's the autonomous scoring. So here's a position. I drove to that position and I did the high hot goal, and it was successful. I'm all done with autonomous, so I can switch to teleop mode, and now my robot is going to get a ball that's inbounded, so my robot is right there. It does a touch, and then I had to drive over here, and I finally did possess it right there. I drove up to the white zone right there, and so because I changed zone, I need to possess it in that zone as well. And now I'm going to throw it over the truss, and I'm going to throw it to the human player. So here's the truss throw, and it was a successful truss throw. And the human player right here is going to possess that ball. So now I have said the human is possessing the ball right there. So if I drove over to this spot and the human player threw it back in and I caught it, so I possessed it in the red zone now, and then I threw it into the high goal, and it was a successful high goal shot. And you literally will just log everything that this robot is doing. And let's say while I'm here after I shot that goal, the other robot was moving, one of the blue robots moved over here, and I was trying to impede its motion or trying to keep it from moving. So it's right here, and I said, I'm defending that robot. And then I moved here and I defended it some more. And then I moved here and I defended it some more. So I have selected several defensive events against that robot. If all of a sudden I committed a foul while defending that robot, maybe I pinned it, so I can select the foul button here, and that will then log a foul against me as a robot. Now the thing about fouls is they're difficult to watch. There is an end match button here, so at the end of the match you will select that end match button, but what I suggest is to not select that end match until the actual scoring comes up, because a lot of times they will list what the fouls or technical fouls after the game is over, and maybe you didn't see it during the course of the game. So let's say that the match is completely over at this point, but then they said, oh, the team 1736 actually caused a technical foul, so I can just select that technical foul after the fact. At that point, when the score comes up and we know we're completely done, I will select the end match button. Now, there is one more screen here. I can put in some notes here. So the technical foul added, reaching in maybe. So I can put in some notes here relative to my particular activity, the robot that I was doing. And at that point, then, I end the match, and that'll submit those notes. The next thing it wants to know is I want to move to the next event, so I can select the test event. I just did match 11. I would select match 12 and move on and go through the same sequence that I just did just a moment ago. So that's basically the scouting. The key elements there are to make sure the possess human event gets in there, and also anytime there is a possession in an alternate zone, you need to log every time that robot possesses in another zone, because that's going to cause the scouting system to score things properly. So that is the completion of the scouting. I encourage you to log on to the scouting and actually try it and practice prior to the regional. We also will practice if you're working with Team 3138. We will be working on during the practice day, and that'll give a good opportunity to actually watch some real matches. What we have suggested to other teams in the past is to open up the scouting system and find a good regional that does a full court video, and you can watch the video and actually scout. Now you won't have the exact robot numbers, but you can at least say, I'm going to watch that robot right there, so you can practice the actual scouting.